Breaking. Parliament just leaked documents exposing secret deals between Starbucks and top British MPs that undermine our entire democratic system. £7.2 million in offshore payments linked directly to 17 sitting MPs. And what happened next ignited nationwide protests that authorities can't contain. Our very sovereignty hangs in the balance. If you want to understand how this corporate takeover threatens your family's future, hit subscribe now because this scandal will reshape Britain's political landscape forever. Here's what sparked this unprecedented corruption scandal. At 2:37 a.m. yesterday, an anonymous whistleblower inside Parliament uploaded 342 pages of internal documents to a secure server. The files contain detailed records of meetings between Starbucks executives and senior MPs from both major parties. These weren't ordinary lobbying sessions. They were strategic planning meetings to bypass British tax laws. The documents included bank transfer records, private emails, and meeting minutes stamped confidential ministerial eyes only. Within hours, The Guardian obtained these files, but something unusual happened next. Instead of publishing immediately, senior editors delayed. Sources inside the newspaper claim they received extraordinary pressure from government officials to suppress the story. That decision would backfire catastrophically. When junior staff at The Guardian discovered the delay, one brave journalist took matters into her own hands. Rebecca Mitchell, a 28-year-old investigative reporter, copied key documents and sent them to 5 other news outlets simultaneously. Her exact message read, "Democracy dies in darkness. Britain deserves to know who's really running our country." By 10:15 a.m., the BBC, The Times, The Mirror, The Telegraph, and Channel 4 all began breaking the story across multiple platforms. Rebecca was immediately suspended, her building access revoked within 23 minutes of the leak. Her personal devices were confiscated by newspaper security. But it was too late. The documents had spread everywhere. The files reveal that Starbucks had secretly created a £7.2 million legislative support fund channeled through 3 separate offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. The money was distributed to 17 sitting MPs, including 9 Conservatives and 8 Labour members, who all served on committees overseeing taxation, business regulation and foreign trade. In exchange, these MPs systematically blocked legislation that would have closed corporate tax loopholes, costing Britain £1.4 billion annually. Home Secretary Jonathan Williams was caught on a recorded Zoom call saying, "The public doesn't understand complex taxation. What they don't know won't hurt them." Chancellor Elizabeth Porter's leaked emails were even more damning. Let's fast-track this before the opposition can rally their Tax the Rich brigade. Starbucks has been most generous with their insights. When reporters confronted Porter outside Parliament at 11:47 a.m, she physically pushed cameras away and shouted, "These are fabricated lies from foreign agents trying to destabilise Britain." Her denial only poured petrol on the fire. Within 30 minutes, her hastily arranged press conference collapsed as journalists displayed document after document bearing her signature and personal ministerial stamp. The Home Office issued a one-line statement, "We are reviewing the allegations." The deafening silence from other implicated MPs spoke volumes. Meanwhile, ordinary British citizens who struggle daily with the cost of living crisis are watching in absolute horror as their elected representatives pocket millions from foreign corporations. Martin Davidson, a 7-year-old retired schoolteacher from Manchester, stood outside his local Starbucks with a homemade sign reading, "British taxes for British people." His protest video gathered 4.7 million views within hours. "I've worked 45 years, paid every penny of tax owed, and now can't afford to heat my home properly," Davidson told onlookers, his voice breaking with emotion. Meanwhile, these politicians help foreign companies siphon billions offshore while taking their blood money. His story is tragically common across Britain today. While pensioners choose between heating and eating, documents show the 17 implicated MPs enjoyed luxury strategy retreats at 5-star resorts in Monaco, Barbados, and Dubai, all funded through the Starbucks slush fund. The contrast is so stark, so morally repugnant that even traditional Conservative voters are turning against the government. Margaret Williams, 73, a lifelong Tory supporter from Yorkshire, burned her membership card on Facebook Live. "My parents lived through the war for a free and fair Britain," she declared, tears streaming down her weathered face. Not this corrupt playground for the privileged few. Her video reached 3.2 million views in just 6 hours, while working families pay 2045% income tax rates. Starbucks paid just 0.3% on their £427 million UK profits last year, according to these leaked files. Veterans, healthcare workers and teachers have spontaneously gathered outside Parliament with signs reading "traitors" and "sold to the highest bidder." Meanwhile, the implicated MPs reportedly gathered at an exclusive Mayfair club where champagne costs £400 per bottle to discuss damage control strategies. Then something unprecedented happened that nobody saw coming. The King himself broke royal protocol by addressing this scandal directly. At 3:15 p.m, Buckingham Palace released a statement that has sent shockwaves through Westminster. Though carefully worded to maintain political neutrality, the message was unmistakable. The Crown observes with deep concern any matter that affects public trust in our democratic institutions. The strength of our nation depends on confidence in those who serve the public interest. Constitutional experts immediately recognised the significance. Professor Margaret Thornbury from Cambridge University called it the most direct royal intervention in political scandal since the abdication crisis. Though never mentioning specific MPs or parties, the Palace statement continued with a devastating line. "Those entrusted with the people's mandate must hold themselves to the highest standards of propriety and transparency." Royal correspondent James Allen noted the timing was surgically precise, coming just as ministers were preparing to dismiss the scandal as routine business engagement. Palace insiders reveal the King personally insisted on issuing the statement despite senior advisers urging caution. His Majesty was genuinely disturbed by the document's contents, one source close to the royal household disclosed. The optics are catastrophic for the government. While MPs scramble to delete tweets and hire crisis managers, the monarchy stands firm as the moral compass of the nation. Within minutes of the Palace statement, "Number King defends democracy" and "Number royal integrity" began trending globally. Former prime ministers from both parties expressed support for the King's intervention, isolating current leadership further. The Archbishop of Canterbury followed suit with his own statement. Integrity in public life is not optional in a healthy democracy. Government whips were reportedly blindsided by this moral authority response, having prepared only for partisan attacks. Not a unified front of institutional condemnation spanning monarchy, church, and former leaders of all political stripes. The economic impact was immediate and severe. The pound plummeted 2.8% against the dollar within 3 hours of the scandal breaking. £18.5 billion was wiped from the FTSE 100 as investors panicked over political stability. Starbucks shares dropped 7.4% globally, erasing $3.2 billion in market value overnight. Credit rating agency Moody's placed UK government bonds on negative watch, citing governance concerns and institutional weakness. But the market reaction pales compared to the public response. Boycott Starbucks became the top trending hashtag across all platforms, with videos of customers pouring Starbucks coffee into street drains generating over 200 million views. By 5:30 p.m, Starbucks reported customer traffic down 72% across UK locations. Political fractures appeared instantly. 15 backbench MPs immediately called for an emergency ethics investigation. 4 junior ministers resigned within hours. Their resignation letters using nearly identical language about preserving personal integrity. Parliamentary WhatsApp groups with names like damage control and survival strategy were leaked to journalists, revealing panic among senior leadership. "We're bleeding support by the minute," wrote one party chair. "Cancel all public appearances until we have a narrative." International reaction was equally swift. The EU Commission announced a review of all trade agreements with post-Brexit Britain, citing serious concerns about regulatory capture by corporate interests. US Treasury officials publicly questioned the UK's commitment to international tax transparency agreements. Even traditional allies distanced themselves. with Canada's Prime Minister noting troubling questions about corporate influence in British politics. Street protests erupted in 32 cities across Britain by nightfall. In London alone, police estimated crowds of 50,000 gathered outside Parliament. In Manchester, protesters surrounded the constituency offices of two implicated MPs. Social media amplified the outrage, with nearly 40% of British adults sharing content related to the scandal within 24 hours. Polling showed government approval ratings collapsing from 43% to just 26% in a single day, the largest one-day drop in modern British political history. Inside Parliament, absolute chaos has erupted. MPs not implicated in the scandal are distancing themselves at remarkable speed. Party whips have completely lost control of both major caucuses. Ministers are refusing to answer calls from the Prime Minister's office. Chief of Staff Michael Bennett was overheard shouting, "This is a bloody extinction-level event," as he stormed through Downing Street corridors. Cabinet Secretary Simon Hayes has reportedly told senior civil servants to document everything, an extraordinary step suggesting concerns about potential criminal investigations. WhatsApp groups with names like Clean Break and Post-Government Careers are buzzing with panicked messages about reputation management. 3 separate MPs were seen crying in parliamentary hallways. Security staff report that paper shredders in ministerial offices have been running continuously since the story broke. Parliamentary staff described the atmosphere as like the last days of Rome, everyone grabbing what they can before the fall. One minister who requested anonymity described watching colleagues deleting messages, calling lawyers, and hiding files within minutes of the story breaking. The Treasury team has locked themselves in their offices, refusing entry even to senior party officials. Labour and Conservative leadership teams, typically adversarial, were spotted meeting privately in a secure room, a virtually unprecedented development suggesting cross-party damage control. Opposition MPs not implicated in the scandal have been instructed to maximise pressure through all available parliamentary procedures. Select committee chairs are invoking emergency powers to compel document preservation and testimony. Civil servants describe the atmosphere as apocalyptic, with centuries of ministerial convention hanging by a thread. Parliamentary security has been doubled after concerns about public protests breaching the building. The Speaker of the House looked ashen and disoriented during emergency procedural meetings. Sources say he repeatedly asked, "How did we get here?" Parliament has never faced a crisis where members from both major parties were simultaneously implicated in financial impropriety of this magnitude. But here's the bombshell that could destroy the entire government permanently. Secret recordings from the Starbucks meetings have just emerged, and they're far worse than anyone imagined. The recordings, verified by 3 independent audio forensic experts and released by Channel 4 at 6:15 p.m. today, capture ministers laughing about exploiting tax loopholes. The beauty is, the public thinks we're fighting for them while we're actually ensuring corporations keep their money offshore, one cabinet minister says to audible laughter. Another voice, identified as Trade Minister Richard Thompson, jokes, "Let them drink lattes while we drink champagne." If these recordings are authentic, and all evidence suggests they are, then this wasn't just financial impropriety. It was a deliberate conspiracy to undermine the British tax system, while cite from I retellingen that many tellilo par insu is where you converses where he canson, while cite to and done miss tellilo par inso too, mocking the very voters they claim to represent. Think about what that means. While campaigning on promises to make corporations pay their fair share, these MPs were secretly ensuring the opposite would happen, all while personally profiting from the arrangement. The optics of that are absolutely devastating. It's not just political corruption, but fundamental contempt for British citizens and democratic principles. According to sources within the National Crime Agency, investigators are now examining potential violations of the Bribery Act 2010, which carries maximum penalties of 10 years imprisonment. The recordings allegedly capture explicit quid pro quo arrangements where legislative actions were promised in direct exchange for consulting fees and advisory positions. One senior civil servant reportedly told colleagues, This goes beyond politics. This is potentially the most significant corruption case in modern British history. The government's entire legislative agenda is now in jeopardy as questions arise about which policies were influenced by corporate payments rather than public interest. Britain stands on the precipice of a constitutional crisis that threatens to bring down not just individual MPs, but potentially the entire government. Meanwhile, smaller political parties are experiencing an unprecedented surge in support. The Green Party and Reform UK, traditionally at opposite ends of the political spectrum, have both doubled their polling numbers overnight. While the Conservatives and Labour implode from shared scandal, these alternative parties are positioning themselves as uncorrupted voices for frustrated voters. Green Party leader Susan Mitchell declared at yesterday's hastily arranged press conference, when both major parties are captured by corporate interests, it's time for a complete reset of British politics. Reform UK's chairman similarly announced, the Westminster swamp needs draining, both red and blue. Corruption must be swept away. The contrast couldn't be more striking. Established parties scrambling to contain damage, while alternative parties present clear moral leadership. Polls released at 9:15 a.m. show support for major parties collapsing, Conservatives down to 24%, Labour falling to 27%, with Greens surging to 18% and Reform UK reaching 21%. For the first time in modern British political history, four parties are polling within single digits of each other. Political analysts call this the most significant realignment of British politics since World War II. Former fringe parties are attracting unprecedented mainstream support, with local party offices reporting membership applications overwhelming their systems. In traditionally safe Conservative and Labour seats, emergency selection meetings are being called as local associations demand new candidates untainted by scandal. Constituency offices report phone lines melting down with voter outrage. At 10:30 a.m. today, an emergency cross-party group of 40 backbench MPs not implicated in the scandal announced the formation of a new Clean Politics caucus, demanding immediate ethics reforms. This unprecedented coalition includes members from 6 different parties united solely by their non-involvement in the Starbucks payments. Political scientists are already describing this as potentially the birth moment of a new political order in Britain. The next 72 hours are absolutely critical for Britain's democratic future. The full House of Commons emergency session, scheduled for 9 a.m. tomorrow, could trigger a cascade of resignations and potentially force a general election. Parliamentary privilege protections may collapse if criminal investigations advance. The public's trust in democratic institutions hangs by the thinnest thread. The question is no longer whether individual MPs will resign, it's whether Britain's entire political system needs fundamental reform to prevent corporate capture. Britain is witnessing the most serious crisis of political legitimacy since the expenses scandal of 2009. This moment will be studied for generations as either the breaking point or the turning point for British democracy. At its centre stands a government in free fall, corporations scrambling to distance themselves, and citizens rediscovering their collective power. Not since the 1970 seconds has public anger at political institutions reached such dangerous levels. Constitutional experts warn that rebuilding trust could take a decade or more. The King faces an extraordinary balancing act, providing moral leadership without overstepping constitutional boundaries. International allies question whether Britain can maintain global commitments while its government implodes. Financial markets remain highly volatile, with the pound hitting its lowest value against the dollar in 8 years, and ordinary Britons are left wondering if anyone in power ever truly represented their interests at all. As protest crowds grow larger by the hour, Britain stands at the crossroads of reform or revolt. So here's the question that matters. Is this scandal the end of corporate influence in British politics, or just the ones who got caught? Did these 17 MPs betray democracy alone, or are they just the tip of a corrupt iceberg? And could this crisis finally break the two-party system that has dominated British politics for over a century? What do you think? Is Britain's democracy fundamentally broken, or is this the shock needed to finally fix a corrupted system? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one. And if this story shocked you as much as it shocked us, share it with everyone who needs to see what's really happening in Westminster right now. The mainstream media won't tell you the full implications of this corporate takeover of our democracy, but we will. Next week, we'll reveal the secret recording of a crisis meeting inside Downing Street as ministers realised their careers were collapsing. You won't believe what the Prime Minister said when he thought the microphones were off.